Assalamu alaikum, everybody. My name is Abbas Ali Ukera, and I'm excited to be here to host this program that's being held by the ISIJ of Toronto. The program for tonight is Preparing for Muharram. It is meant to be an interactive seminar with our three resident alims, Sheikh Jaffar, Maulana Saghir Hussain, and Maulana Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi. So the layout of the program is that we will begin with approximately 15-minute lectures by each of our resident alims, and then we will proceed with the Q&A, question and answer session. We have Menti open, so you can proceed to menti.com, and you can see the code on the screen. The code is 7117933. So once you plug that in, we are looking through the questions. A request to everybody, please keep your questions on topic. We're entering a very different month of Muharram, where we will all be adjusting to try to commemorate the event of Karbala and the sacrifice of Imam Hussein alayhi salam to the best of our ability with the current conditions in the world and in our communities. Some of us will be attending programs where health precautions are being taken. Others we will be following online for the majority of us with many of the centers. So with that, let's take this opportunity of this seminar here. We have our three residence alims and we aim to end just before Maghrib, inshallah. So please, participate. Again, go on menti.com throughout the lectures and please proceed to put in the questions and we'll ask them to the Sheikh. If you would like to ask specifically to a speaker, please note that down in the question. That would be great. So with that, I'm going to proceed to pass it over to Sheikh Jaffar. He will be beginning our seminar here today. His topic for tonight is Imam Hussein alayhi salam and Imam Mehdi alayhi salam. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Sheikh Jaffar to begin the program, inshallah. Sheikh Jaffar.
If I can just interrupt for a second. Assalamu alaikum to everybody. Please continue, Sheikhana. Good to see all of you.
Wa alaikum salam, Sayyida. Nice to see you as well. May Allah bless you always. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وبه نستعين وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد ربي أنتقنا بالهدى وألهمنا التقوى السلام عليكم جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. I begin in the name of Allah, the most kind, the most merciful. It's due to that kindness and mercy that we have these opportunities where we gather to connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to learn more about Him. It's a nice opportunity we have. During the month of Muharram, generally, the ulama of the community are not here, and we have a lot of very brilliant ulama visiting us. And so this was a good opportunity for us to gather with our community and basically get us ready for this amazing opportunity that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us. And we pray to Him that He gives us enough life so that we can participate in this great month. One of the main responsibilities we have in this age of ghaibah is to prepare for our Imam, right? As traditions tell us, أفضل الأعمال أمتي انتظار الفرج. That the greatest act that my ummah can do is to anticipate or actively anticipate the coming of our Imam. And one of the ways to understand how to fulfill this responsibility is through the lens of Karbala. When we look at the tragedy of Karbala, we can find within this great university of Aba Abdullah alayhi salam many lessons that we can apply into our lives so that we can prepare for our Imam. That is the ultimate goal of what we have. And so today, inshallah, in the few minutes that we have together, I'm going to focus on the connection and the link between the third Imam and the 12th Imam to try to see how we can better prepare. So one of the things that easily comes into focus when we look at traditions and even when we look at some of the tafasir of Quranic verses is that there is this amazing link that exists between the third Imam and the 12th Imam. Now naturally all of the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam are connected, but there is a a special link, if I can call it, between the third Imam and the 12th Imam. And I'll give some examples to establish this link before drawing a lesson from it. For example, when we look at the Holy Quran in Surah Al-Isra, Surah number 17, verse number 33, Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala says, وَلَا تَقْتُلُوا النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. That do not kill the soul that Allah has made inviolable, the one that cannot be violated, except with due cause. وَمَنْ قُتِلَ مَظْلُومًا. And whoever is killed unjustly, فَقَدْ جَعَلْنَا لِوَلِيِّهِ سُلْطَانًا. Whoever is killed unjustly, we have given their heirs an authority to seek out any type of retribution for that unjust killing. Now, when we look at traditions, the traditions tell us a very beautiful understanding, right? That our fifth Imam alayhi salam, for example, he quotes this verse, وَمَنْ قُتِلَ مَظْلُومًا فَقَدْ جَعَلْنَا لِي وَلِيِّهِ سُلْطَانًا. He says, Al-Mazlum that was killed, who was oppressed, was Hussein bin Ali. He says this is the one that Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala is referring to. قُتِلَ مَظْلُومًا, that he was killed unjustly. وَنَحْنُ أَوْلِيَاءَهُ, and we are his heirs. وَالْقَائِمُ مِنَّا, and when the one who rises, when he will rise, إِذَا قَامَ طَلَبَ بِثَأْرِ الْحُسَيْنِ, that he will be the one who will seek the blood that was spilled unjustly. So we see from the Holy Quran and the explanation from the Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam that this unjust killing of Abu Abdullah alayhis salam will be revenged by our 12th Imam. Now, there is a secondary question that unfortunately we don't have time to get into, and that is that how is it that the 12th Imam will seek this vengeance, considering Yazid is not alive, Shimr is not alive. But we'll have to park that conversation. Today we're just trying to establish this link between the third Imam and the 12th Imam alayhim as-salam. When we look at other traditions, for example, we are told that the 12th Imam alayhi salam's uprising will begin on the day of Ashura. There is a tradition that tells us from our 6th Imam alayhi salam that he says that when the 12th Imam will be called out, his name will be announced, Yunada bi ismihi laylata thalathina wa ishrin, that his name will be called out on the 23rd of Ramadan, wa yaqumu yawma ashura yawma qutila fihi al-Husayn bin Ali alayhim as-salam. But he will actually begin his mission, his uprising, on the day of Ashura, the day that his grandfather Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam will be killed. Another example about the link between these two great Imams is what we are taught by our 5th Imam on how we greet each other on the day of Ashura. What do we say? On the day of Ashura, we don't say salam to one another, isn't it? On this day we say, أَعْظَمَ اللَّهُ أُجُورَنَا بِمُصَابِنَا بِالْحُسَيْنِ. May Allah increase the reward that because of the sorrow that we feel at the death of Abu Abdullah or at the martyrdom of Abu Abdullah. And then there's a second aspect of this greeting that we continue and we say, وَجَعَلَنَا وَإِيَّاكُمْ مِنَ الطَّالِبِينَ بِثَأْرِهِ مَعَ وَلِيِّهِ الْإِمَامَ الْمَهْدِي مِنْ آلِ مُحَمَّدٍ صَلَوَاتُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِمْ أَجْمَعِينَ اللَّهُمَّ صَلِّ عَلَى Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. So we greet each other and we say that may Allah reward us for our grief for Abu Abdullah, and may He place us amongst those who will help the guardian, the Mahdi, Ajalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, when he seeks the revenge for Abu Abdullah. And of course in Dua Nudba as well we recite, isn't it? Aina talibu bidamil maktuli bi Karbala. Where is the one who will seek the blood or the vengeance for the blood that was spilled in Karbala? We can go on, right? But this is, I think, enough for us to establish the fact that there is this undeniable link between what the third Imam alayhi salam did in Karbala and what the 12th Imam alayhi salam inshallah will do when he returns back to us. So after having established this link, right, I want us to get a lesson from it and realize what our responsibility is. And I'm going to just give an explanation for us to understand how important of a link we play between what the third Imam alayhi salam did and what the 12th Imam alayhi salam will do. You know, the type of life that you and I live is a life that is built around instant gratification, isn't it? We live in a world where everything is available to us instantly. If I am perplexed at 2 in the morning when a random thought appears into my head, all I have to do is go into my smartphone, go into Google, and I can get an answer right away. It's not like I have to say I have to go to the library and figure this out. No, I can get an answer right away. I can order my passport online. I can get my driver's license online. I can get Amazon to deliver a parcel to me the same day, right? All of these things, the world is moving faster and faster towards instant gratification, to where if you look at statistics, it's quite mind-boggling that if you load a website, and the statistics tell us that if the website takes more than 2 seconds to load, people will walk away from that website because they don't have patience for 2 seconds to let a website load. This instant gratification has rubbed off on us, where we become less patient, to that extent where even when it comes to matters of spirituality, if I don't see an instant result, I'm likely not to continue down that path because I think that I should be instantly benefited or improved. This is creeping into all facets of our life, right? We are becoming less and less patient. We want things right away. And our worldview is shaped by that. But what's interesting, right? I want us to think about this, that if we were to look at Karbala from the lens of instant gratification, that you do something and something happens right away, then from this lens, one can argue that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was not successful in Karbala. Because when Imam al-Hussein was martyred, there was no immediate change. Yazid continued. After him, there were many Yazids who continued. You look at what the Abbasids did, what Mutawakkil did, was comparable to all of these things and atrocities when, for example, Yazid attacked Medina and attacked Makkah. And after that, there were far more worse Yazids that have come. And therefore, what we understand is that we have to understand the reality of what Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam intended. This is really important. Imam alayhi salam never intended for immediate change. Yeah? He never intended that, okay, I'm going to go to Karbala, my life will be sacrificed, my sister and my families will be taken as prisoners, and instantly you will see a change within the ummah, right? The Imam never said that. If you look at the wordings of the Imam alayhi salam, they paint a picture of what the Imam alayhi salam really intended. When he was leaving, what did he say? وَإِنَّمَا خَرَجْتُ لِطَلَبِ الْإِصْلَاحِ فِي أُمَّةِ جَدِّي. He says that I am rising to seek reformation in the ummah of my father, of my grandfather. He didn't say I'm rising so that reformation will happen. No, he wanted to seek reformation, right? And when we look at the wordings of the 12th Imam alayhi salam, they are quite different. When we talk about the 12th Imam, what do we say? يَمْلَأُ الْأَرْضَ قِسْطًا وَعَدْلًا. He says that he will fill the earth with justice. He doesn't say that I will seek to fill. No, the Imam will fill the earth with justice. And so when we look at this from a linear lens, we can say that the third Imam alayhi salam planted the seeds in Karbala. The 12th Imam alayhi salam will harvest these plants and these seeds that have grown into these beautiful fruits. And in the between, in the interim, is the responsibility that you and I have to nurture these seeds so that they become these beautiful flowers that our 12th Imam alayhi salam will have to automatically harvest. We can't expect our 12th Imam alayhi salam to come and still do the work that Imam al-Hussein started. The expectation is that the Shia of Hussein alayhi salam will carry on the legacy of Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam, so that when the 12th Imam comes, we are ready for you, Ya Sahib al-Zaman. Yeah? We are ready for you to continue and take us to that path because we have done our work. And so my brothers and sisters, right? This is what I leave you with, and this is how I want us to understand this tragedy of Karbala when we look at it, that whatever lessons we take from this, they cannot be short-lived. They can't be something that I shed tears for 12 days and then I revert back to my life as if nothing had happened. These lessons of Karbala need to be taken to the heart. And when we take them to the heart, we have to understand that we have a serious responsibility to continue that reformation, to continue that amr bil ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar, to continue to bring about a change within myself and in the ummah, so that the change reaches to that point where the 12th Imam alayhi salam will simply have to come and harvest that change. In other words, the more we delay what the work Imam al-Hussein did, the more we procrastinate, the more we are delaying the coming of our Imam. And so this is a link that I want us to understand, I want us to see clearly, and I hope that we can take the necessary lessons during these nights so that we can better ourselves, and inshallah in doing so, prepare for the coming of our Imam. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen, wa sallallahu ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Muhammad wa alihi at-tahirin. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
Ahsan, Sheikh Jaffar.
Ahsantum, Shaykhana.
Ahsantum.
Thank you so much. It's an important connection that I think many of us need a reminder of. And maybe in the question and answer, we can think about some specific actions that we could take, to make sure that we are ready for the arrival of the 12th Imam, inshallah.
Inshallah.
With that, I'm going to pass it over to Maulana Saghir Hussain. He will be doing a short lecture in Urdu for us. The topic is etiquettes of Azadari, and I think in this time when many of us will be commemorating Muharram at home, this is a good topic and something that we can definitely be enlightened on. So with that, I'm going to pass it over Maulana Sayyid Saghir Hussain.
Thank you so much, brother. Tayyaballahu anfasakum, Shaykhana. It was very enlightening to hear to you. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen wa bihi nasta'een wa huwa khairun nasirin wa mu'in. Thumma salatu wa salam ala sayyidina wa nabiyyina Abil Qasim Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad وآل محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. أما بعد، فقد قال الإمام الزمان عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف: وأما الحوادث الواقعة فارجعوا فيها إلى رواة حديثنا فإنهم حجتي عليكم وأنا حجة الله عليهم. یہ بہت مشہور حدیث آپ لوگوں نے سن رکھی ہے. امام زمان علیہ السلام سے میں آپ کی خدمت میں شیخ صدوق علیہ الرحمہ کی کتاب کمال الدین اور اتمام نعمہ سے عرض کر رہا ہوں. جیسا کہ ہمارے نہایت محترم ساتھی شیخ جعفر حافظہ اللہ نے بھی فرمایا، مختصر سے وقت میں آپ لوگوں کو اگر میں کنیکٹ کرنا چاہوں تو آپ کو 3 باتیں ذہن میں رکھنا ہوں گی. سب سے پہلے اس سال کی عزاداری جو ہے وہ دوسرے سالوں سے مختلف ہے. دوسرے نمبر پر ہم الحمدللہ ولایت محور ہیں. ہمارے دین کا دار و مدار ہم ولایت کو ماننے والے ہیں، علی علیہ السلام کی ولایت کو ماننے والے ہیں خلاصتاً. اور ولایت کا تقاضا ہے اطاعت. اگر میں آپ کو کوئکلی کنیکٹ کرنا چاہوں تو دیکھیے قرآن کریم میں ہمیں نماز خوف کا حکم ملتا ہے. ہمارے لیے آف کورس کوڈ 2 ہی چیزیں ہیں: انی تارک فیکم الثقلین کتاب اللہ و عطرتی اہل بیتی ما ان تمسکتم بہما لن تضلوا بعدی ابدا. جب تک ہم دونوں قرآن کریم اور عطرت علیہم السلام سے متمسک ہیں ہم کبھی بھی گمراہ نہیں ہوں گے. یہ پیغمبر اکرم صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ وسلم کا ہمیں دیا ہوا ضابطہ حیات ہے. تو اگر میں قرآن پہ نظر کروں تو دیکھیے قرآن کریم میں جو ہے یا ایھا الذین آمنوا اطیعوا اللہ و اطیعوا الرسول و اولی الامر منکم، میرا پوائنٹ آج جو آپ کی خدمت میں عرض کرنا ہے وہ یہ ہے کہ یہ کیسے محقق ہوگا، ہم اس کو کیسے عملی جامہ پہنا سکیں گے۔ رسول پاک کی اطاعت ہم سب کر رہے ہیں، اللہ کی اطاعت سب کر رہے ہیں، ابھی رہا ولی امر، ہمارا ولی امر علیہ السلام جو ہیں وہ ہماری نظروں سے غائب ہیں، موجود ہیں لیکن ہماری نظروں سے غائب ہیں، پردہ غیبت میں ہیں۔ تو وہ جب پردہ غیبت میں جا رہے تھے تو انہوں نے فرمایا اما الحوادث الواقعہ، اب جب کہ میرے بعد حوادث، حادثے کی جمع حادث وہ چیز جو نئی پیدا ہوتی ہے، نئی، اور میں جلدی میں اگر آپ کو کنیکٹ کرنا چاہوں تو میں یہ کووڈ-19 کی پینڈیمک سے کنیکٹ کرنا چاہ رہا ہوں۔ تو اس میں کیا کرنا ہے، امام نے ہمیں کیا فارمولہ دیا، فارجعوا فیہا الی روات حدیثنا، اس میں تم ہماری حدیثوں کے راویوں سے مراجعہ کرنا۔ مرجع تقلید وہ ہیں جو کلام معصومین کو سمجھتے ہیں، تو امام نے فرمایا کہ تم میرے دین کے جو مراجع ہیں، ہمارے فقہا ہیں، ان سے مراجعہ کرنا۔ فَإِنَّهُمْ حُجَّتِي عَلَيْكُمْ، یہ بڑی ضروری بات ہے، توجہ فرمائیے گا، یقیناً بے شک وہ تم پر میری حجت ہے، وَأَنَا حُجَّةُ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِمْ، اور میں ان پر اللہ کی حجت ہوں، فقہا پر۔ تو میں اس لیے یہ آپ کو سب عرض کر رہا ہوں کہ دیکھیے قرآن کریم میں بھی نماز خوف کا حکم ہے کہ جب عادی حکم نہ رہے، قاعدہ ثانوی آگے آتا ہے، اور نماز خوف بہترین مثال ہے کہ دیکھیے فقہا نے ہمیں جو فتاوا دیے ہیں، آیت اللہ سیستانی حفظہ اللہ جو کہ یہاں پر تقریباً میجر فالوڈ مرجع تقلید ہیں، آیت اللہ وحید خراسانی، آیت اللہ خامنائی حفظہ اللہ، آیت اللہ مکارم، اب جس بھی آیت اللہ کا فتویٰ اٹھا کے دیکھیے، ہمارے علماء اور آیات عظام اس بات پر متفق نظر آ رہے ہیں کہ یہ عزاداری کا سال دوسرے سالوں سے مختلف ہے۔ اس سال میں احتیاطی تدابیر کو رعایت کریں، لمیٹڈ نمبر جو ہیں وہ حاضرین کے ہونے چاہیے، اگر آپ گھر پر عزاداری رکھ رہے ہیں آپ ماسک کا استعمال کریں، اور ساری تدابیر جو کہ الحمدللہ آپ نے بے شمار مرتبہ سن رکھی ہیں، اور I trust کہ آپ سب کو زبانی یاد ہیں۔ جو نقطہ مہم آپ کو دینا چاہتا ہوں، وہ اکثر لوگ جس کی طرف توجہ نہیں کرتے وہ یہ ہے کہ بنا پر ہمارے فقہی حصے کے، عملی حصے کے، اگر خدا نخواستہ میری وجہ سے کسی دوسرے مومن کو کووڈ-19 کا وائرس ٹرانسمٹ ہو گیا تو اس کے اوپر جو بھی چیز آئے گی اس کی دیت میرے ذمے ہے۔ دیکھیے یہ بہت سخت حکم ہے، یعنی یہ مسئلے کی بڑی سنگینی کی طرف ہمیں لے جاتا ہے، تو اس سے بات لازم آتی ہے کہ ہمیں احتیاط کرنی چاہیے۔ ساتھ میں یہ ہے کہ آف کورس دیکھیے ہم بھی تو تھوڑے بہت عزادار ہیں، مولا کے میں بھی آن لائن مجالس پڑھتا ہوں، ٹرسٹ می، اپنے آپ ہی صلوات پڑھنا، خود ہی مصائب میں کوئی رونے والا نہیں آگے ہوتا، آواز بھی نہیں سنائی دے رہی ہوتی، یقین مانیے زندگی میں میرے لیے شاید کبھی میں نے تصور بھی نہیں کیا تھا کہ ایسی سچویشن بھی ہوگی۔ دیکھیے اٹس این ایکسٹرا آرڈینری سچویشن، میں بھی ہوں، صحت مند ہوں، سینٹر بھی ہے، مومنین ہے، سب ہے، لیکن ہم وہاں پر مجلس دیکھیے 6 مہینے ہو گئے تقریباً، کوئی مجلس نہیں ہو رہی، نماز جمعہ نہیں ہو رہی، شب جمعہ نہیں ہو رہی، دعائے کمیل نہیں ہو رہی۔ تو خلاصہ یہ ہے کہ مجھے مومنین کی کالیں آتی ہیں، مومنین اور بھی جگہوں سے کوٹ کرتے ہیں، مولانا فلان جگہ پر سینٹر کھل گیا ہے، آپ کیوں نہیں کھول رہے؟ میرے بھائی مسئلہ وہ ہے جو آپ کی خدمت میں عرض کیا، تو میں آپ کو اصل مسئلے کی طرف لے جاؤں کہ امام زمان علیہ السلام کی جو آپ کی خدمت میں نے حدیث عرض کی ہے، ہم ولایت محور ہیں۔ دیکھیے ہر زندگی کا ہمارا دن، ہر عمل ایک آزمائش ہے۔ الذی خلق الموت والحیات لیبلوکم ایکم احسن عملا، ہمارا اٹھنا بیٹھنا، کھانا پینا، سونا آنا جانا، ہر چیز میں اللہ جل شانہ نے قرار یہ دیا کہ وہ ہماری آزمائش کرے، ہمارا امتحان لے۔ وہ اس سال عزاداری بھی ہمارے ایک امتحان ہے، لیکن آداب عزاداری میں دیکھیے ہم ولایت محور ہیں۔ اگر ہم اطیع اللہ و اطیع الرسول کو عملی آج پوچھنا چاہیں کہ ہم اس کو عملی کیسے کریں گے، اولی الامر نے ہمیں بتایا کہ میرے فقہا، میرے مراجعین سے مراجعہ کرنا، تو جو مرجع تقلید ہیں وہ فرما رہے ہیں کہ لمیٹڈ عزاداری ہو، زیادہ تر آپ کوشش کریں آن لائن عزاداری سنیں، اور انہوں نے یہ بھی عطا فرمایا ہے کہ دیکھیے جو لوگ رعایت احتیاط کے ساتھ جا کر حضوری سن رہے ہیں مجلس، ان کا اجر و ثواب کسی طرح بھی جو لوگ آن لائن سن رہے ہیں ان سے زیادہ نہیں ہے۔ دیکھیں انما الاعمال بالنیات، ہمارے پیغمبر اکرم صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ وسلم نے ہمیں جو فارمولہ دیا وہ یہ ہے کہ ہمارے اعمال کا تعلق ہماری نیتوں سے ہے. ہماری نیت کتنی خالص ہے یہ اللہ جل شانہ جانتا ہے، یا رسول خدا جانتے ہیں، یا امام زمان اجل اللہ تعالی جانتے ہیں علیہ الاف التحیات والثناء. تو پوائنٹ یہ ہے کہ ہمارے وہ بھائی دل تنگ نہ ہو کہ مولانا فلان شہر میں فلان سینٹر کھل گیا ہے، فلان سینٹر کھل گیا ہے، اس ملک میں سارے سینٹر کھل گئے. اللہ مجھے کوئی بتا رہا تھا کل ہی، اتفاق کی بات ہے، میرے خیال سے مومنین کے دل اسے اور مضبوط ہوں گے. مولانا دارالسلام میں سب سینٹروں میں مجلسیں ہو رہی ہیں. بھائی اچھی بات ہے. عزاداری، دیکھیے عزاداری استغفر اللہ، یہ شعبہ نہ ہونے لگ جائے کہ ہم کوئی عزاداری کے نعوذ باللہ اہمیت میں کمی کے قائل ہو گئے یا کوئی یہ فتویٰ لگانا شروع کر دے رہی ہے تو مقصر ہو گئے آپ. نہ میرے بھائی، عزاداری ہمارا اصل دین ہے. عزاداری سے ہمیں دین ملا، عزاداری سے ہمیں قرآن کریم ملا، عزاداری سے ہمیں اہل بیت ملے. اگر عزاداری نہ ہو ہماری زندگی میں تو کچھ بھی نہیں ہے. اس سے بڑھ کر اور کیا ہوگا؟ لیکن جیسا کہ نماز خوف کی حالت میں بات کر رہا تھا، کسی معصوم کو، اب سوالات میں میری آپ سے درخواست ہے، کسی بھی معصوم کی زندگی سے آپ مجھ سے پوچھئے گا کہ مولانا وہاں پر کب معصوم نے اپنی زندگی میں قاعدہ اول کو چھوڑ کر قاعدہ ثانوی پر عمل کیا ہے. میں مثال دینا چاہ رہا تھا، 2 مرتبہ بات کرتے کرتے میں رک گیا نماز خوف کی، کہ اللہ تعالیٰ نے بھی فرمایا ہے نماز جو کہ امام صادق علیہ السلام کا فرمان ہے، معرفت خدا کے بعد سب سے افضل عمل نماز ہے. تو جب تم خوف میں ہو فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ فَرِجَالًا أَوْ رُكْبَانًا، اگر تمہیں خوف ہے کسی دشمن کا، کسی چور کا، کسی سانپ کا، درندے کا، کسی حیوان کا، تو تم اپنی نماز کو قصر کر لو. رجالن، کھڑے کھڑے پڑھ لو، سواری پہ پڑھ لو. فَإِذَا أَمِنْتُمْ، اور جب اطمینان ہو جائے، جب امن کی حالت باقاعدہ ہو جائے تو پھر نماز کو نارمل طریقے سے پڑھو. یہ تو وہی عبادت کی بات. لیکن جہاں تک عقائد میں تعلق ہے، دیکھیے نبی اکرم صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ وسلم نے ہمارے امام اول کو حکم دیا شب ہجرت، یا علی، توجہ کیجئے گا، ہم اکثر یہ باتیں سنتے ہیں لیکن عملی پہلو پر کم توجہ کرتے ہیں. توجہ فرمائیے گا. شب ہجرت رسول گرامی صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ وسلم نے امام علی علیہ السلام کو جو حکم دیا وہ یہ تھا کہ یا علی آج آپ نے سونا ہے، سو جائیے میرے بستر پر. مولا علی جو کہ 1000 رکعت کی نماز پڑھنے کے عادی تھے، اتنا بڑا پیغام ہمیں اسلام میں ملتا ہے. دیکھیں وہ عادت کے پیروکار نہیں تھے، عبادت کے پیروکار تھے. امام نے یہ نہیں کہا کہ یار میں تو ہر روز 1000 رکعت پڑھتا ہوں، چلے 25-30 ہی پڑھ لیتا ہوں. نہیں، امام سے پوچھے گا مولا اس دن آپ کو کیسی نیند آئی؟ فرمایا جیسی اس دن مجھے نیند آئی، جیسا میں اس دن سویا، زندگی میں کبھی میں ایسا نہیں سویا. کیونکہ حکم پیغمبر یہ تھا اس دن علی علیہ السلام کو کہ سو جائے، سونا ہے. تو اگر ہم ہوتے ہیں ایسا فلان کہتے یار چلے کو 15-20 ہی پڑھ لیتے ہیں، 1000 رکعت پڑھنے کا عادی ہوں، 15-20-30 پڑھ لیتا ہوں. لیکن وہ کفار دیکھ لیتے کہ ارے یہ تو رسول پاک نہیں، یہ تو علی ہیں، تو وہ نعوذ باللہ رسول پاک کی جستجو میں نکل جاتے تھے اور سارا مقصد فوت ہو جاتا. جناب سیدہ زینب سلام اللہ علیہا کی مثال لے لیجئے. جناب امام سجاد سے پوچھا بھائی بیٹا ہم کیا کریں، خیام میں آگ لگ گئی ہے. جناب زینب جن کا پردے کا اتنا اہتمام کرتے تھے مولا علی کے، ان کے سائے پر بھی امام حسن سے یہی فرمایا نا رات کو کیوں جاتے ہیں بابا لے کے؟ فرمایا بیٹا میں تمہاری بہن کے سائے پر بھی کسی نامحرم کی نگاہ پڑے برداشت نہیں کر سکتا. تو اس بی بی زینب نے جو اتنی پردے کی اہتمام کرنے والی تھی، امام سجاد کے حکم پر کہ پھوپھی اب نکل چلیے بنا پردے کی، تو وہ نکل آئی باہر. استغفر اللہ کہنے کا قطعاً یہ مقصد نہیں ہے ہماری مائیں بہنیں بے پردہ باہر نکل آیا کریں، یعنی اضطرار کی حالت میں، خوف کی حالت میں حکم اول بدل جائے گا حکم ثانی میں، اور بعض اوقات حکم ثانی بھی آگے چلا جائے گا. امام حسین نے نماز خوف پڑھی، حضرت ابو ثمامہ سیداوی نے کہا ظہر کا وقت مولا نماز کا وقت ہو گیا. امام نے دعا دی، امام نے دعا دی اپنے صحابی کو، امام وقت ہے. حضرت زہیر بن قین اور سعید بن عبداللہ سلام اللہ علیہ کو اپنے آگے کھڑا کیا. ان دونوں نے آگے کھڑے ہو کر امام کے لیے ڈھال، ایک شیلڈ پرووائڈ کی. امام نے اپنی نماز خوف پڑھی اور آدھے اصحاب نے کربلا میں امام کے ساتھ نماز خوف کو اس طرح سے ادا کیا با جماعت. دیکھیے کتنا بڑا پیغام، یہ معجزہ ہے. ہمیں امام حسین نے عین وقت میں یہ بھی بتایا کہ اللہ کی عبادت بھی ترک نہ ہونے پائے، اور یہ بھی بتایا کہ حالات اضطرار میں آپ اپنا حکم جو ہے وہ تبدیل کر لیں. اور یہ بھی بتایا لوگوں کو کہ دیکھو اسی نماز کے لیے تو میں تمہارے ساتھ جنگ کر رہا ہوں. احیاء دین. اگر میں دوسرا آپ کو عزاداری کا ان کے ایٹیکیٹس یعنی آداب عزاداری کے بارے میں بتانا چاہوں، وہ یہ ہے کہ احیاء دین اپنے بچوں میں، فیملی میں، ساتھیوں، دوستوں میں، ملنے والوں میں، آگے پیچھے جن کے بھی ساتھ ہیں آپ، ان میں احیاء دین کریں، پیغام عاشورہ کو عام کریں. اور وہ پیغام عاشورہ جو ہے اس کا سب سے بڑا درس شاید یہ ہو کہ باطل کے آگے ڈٹ کے کھڑا ہونا ہے، ظالم کی نفی کرنی ہے، مظلوم کا ساتھ دینا ہے، اور اس کے لیے چاہے ہمیں کبھی قربانی بھی دینی پڑے. دیکھیے کربلا قربانی اور ایثار کا شاید سب سے بڑا مرکز ہے، سب سے بڑا سبق قربانی اور ایثار کا ملتا ہے. امام حسین نے اپنا سب کچھ قربان کر دیا اور اصول نہیں چھوڑا، باطل کو نہیں. الا ترون ان الباطل لا یتناہی عنہ، تم دیکھ نہیں رہے، کوئی باطل سے منع نہیں کر رہا. یہ امام کا فرمانا، الا ان الداعی ابن داعی قد رکزنی بین اثنتین بین الذلۃ والذلہ وہیہات من الذلہ، مجھے یہ ذلت یا موت کے درمیان میں اس نے مخیر کیا ہے، لیکن ہم سے ذلت دور ہے، میں کبھی بھی ذلت کے آگے سر تسلیم خم نہیں کروں گا. اور اگر میں 1-2 منٹ رہ گئے ہیں اس میں اگر آپ کو کوئی اور سبق دینا چاہوں آداب عزاداری میں سے، تو وہ یہ کہ دیکھیے عزاداری ہماری شہ رگ ہے. عزاداری با ہدف ہونی چاہیے، با مقصد ہونی چاہیے. کسی بھی آپ جگہ پر سنیں، آن لائن، گھر میں، ساتھی کے پاس، کسی فون پہ، جس طرح بھی جا کے حضوری آپ عزاداری کا جو پیغام لیں اس کو اپنی زندگی میں عملی جامہ پہنائیں. اس طرح سے ہمیں اجر رسالت ادا کرنا ہے رسول پاک کی اولاد کا. امام حسین علیہ السلام جو بہترین ان کی اولاد کا شاہد مثال ہے، ہمیں اجر رسالت وہ تب ہم سے خوش ہو گئے اگر ہم عملی کریں. دیکھیے اگر میں مثال کربلا کو اور دینا چاہوں، ولایت محوری میں سے عباس علیہ السلام نے جب آ کر لحظات آخر میں کہا، مولا حلی میں رخصہ، میری آپ سے درخواست ہے، پلیز توجہ سے سنیے گا. ہم ہمیشہ مصائب عباس سنتے ہیں، ہم نے ہمیشہ عباس سے مانگا، ان سے مانگا ہے، لیکن ہم نے عباس کو کیا دیا ہے عملی شکل میں، ان کی اطاعت کر کے. عباس نے کہا، مولا کیا مجھے اجازت ہے، اريد ان اطلب ثاری من هؤلاء المنافقین، فرزند بطول میں منافقوں سے اپنا بدلہ لینا چاہتا ہوں. امام حسین نے جب عباس سے بدلے کی بات سنی تو کہا، عباس یہ العطش کی آواز سن رہے ہو، اطلب من هؤلاء قلیلا من الماء، جاؤ جا کر عباس ہو سکے تو میرے بچوں کے لیے تھوڑا سا پانی لے آؤ. دیکھیے عباس کا اب ہدف فرات تھی. اگر عباس کا مقصد فتح جنگ ہوتا، خدا کی قسم آتا عقیدہ جو بھی ہو، مجھے اسے غرض نہیں ہے، مالک آپ کے عقیدے کو قبول کر، میرا عقیدہ ہے اگر عباس ابن علی فتح کربلا کے لیے نکلتے تو وہ عباس جو 3 دن کا بھوکا پیاسا 4000 کے لشکر کو چیر کر دریا پر قابض ہو گیا، اگر اس کا مقصد دریا پہ جانا نہ ہوتا، لشکر جنگ کو طے کرنا ہوتا، تو عباس ان سب کو قتل کر دیتے اور فتح کر کے آتے. لیکن عباس پانی کی طرف گئے. پوائنٹ، عباس علیہ السلام نے امام زمانہ کی اطاعت کی. ان کے امام زمان امام حسین علیہ السلام تھے. انہوں نے اپنی امام کا حکم مانا، اپنی خواہش نفس کی پیروی نہیں کی. یعنی طاقت رکھتے ہوئے طاقت کا استعمال یوں نہیں کیا جیسے ان کا جی چاہ رہا تھا، ویسے طاقت کا استعمال کیا جیسے ان کے زمانے کا امام چاہ رہا تھا. تو بس اور بے شمار سبق ہیں کربلا میں، لیکن رضام بقضائک و تسلیم لامرک ہمیں یہ بتا رہا ہے کہ ہم بھی اپنے مراجع اذان جو ہیں، علماء کرام جو ہیں، ان کی باتوں کو مانیں، ان کی رہنمائی کو مانیں. بعض اوقات ہم 10 سال عزاداری کرتے رہتے ہیں، لیکن نعوذ باللہ ہمارے اندر چھپی ہوئی یہ بات رہتی ہے کہ ہم حکم کو نہیں مانتے. تو انشاءاللہ عزاداری ہماری جان ہے، پہچان ہے. امام خمینی کے کلام پہ ختم کرتا ہوں کہ ہمارے پاس جو کچھ بھی ہے وہ عزاداری کے سبب ہے، اس کے باعث ہے. عزاداری ہے تو ہم ہیں، عزاداری نہیں تو کچھ نہیں. وصلی اللہ علی محمد وآلہ وسلم. I thank you all very much. اور آپ سب سے دعا ہے مالک آپ سب کو حفظ میں رکھے اور آپ کی عزاداری اور مجالس قبول.
احسن، جزاک اللہ
طيب الله أنفاسكم أحسنتم.
Jazakallah. Thank you, Maulana. With that, we will proceed to our next short lecture, and then we will proceed to the Q&A. For those of you who would like to submit questions, menti.com, and the code is below on the screen. Up next, we have Maulana Sayyid Muhammad Rizvi with us, a resident alim, and he will be speaking to the topic of evolution of Azadari through history. Assalamu alaikum, Maulana. With that, I will pass it over to you.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.
Salam. Do I start now?
Yep, you can go ahead.
Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء وخاتم المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين واللعنة الدائمة الباقية على أعدائهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد, dear sisters and brothers in Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I would like to begin with the statement from the Prophet of Islam, Hazrat Muhammad Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, where he says, إن لقتل الحسين حرارة في قلوب المؤمنين لا تبرد أبدا. That verily in the martyrdom of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, there is a warmth in the hearts of the believers that will never cool off. And that is manifested by what we call Aza or Azadari, the ceremonies where we remember the tragedy of Karbala. For us, the Aza of Imam Hussain alayhi salam is the lifeline of the Shia community. You know, you already heard Sheikh Jaffar and Maulana Sayyid Saghir on this issue. I would just like to extend that and go into this issue of the evolution, the evolution of the institution of Azadari. But let me just say that that the Azah of Sayyid al-Shuhada is the lifeline of the Shia community. There is nothing more powerful than the Azah of Hussein, which can bring the Shia community together. I actually have some very interesting examples from the new development of the Shia, especially those refugees who came from Iraq to North America, but for some other time, inshallah. And it is also the most far-reaching means of spreading the message of Shiaism in Islam within the community and outside the community. So let me just continue with this issue, that this whole issue of Azah or Azadari of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, this is not just a cultural issue. Sometimes there is a tendency among our people just to say, oh, this is cultural, this is not religious, this is religious, this is not culture. Sometimes they don't have the ability to distinguish one from the other, or how to use these terminologies. The Azah of Sayyid al-Shuhada is not a cultural issue. It is a religious ritual emphasized by the Imams of Ahlul Bayt, especially from Imam Jaffar al-Sadiq alayhi salam onwards. There are many, many examples from the days of the sixth Imam onwards, where we see the tradition of marthiyah, to compose and recite poetry in remembrance of the tragedy of Karbala. Actually, Imam would also encourage the poets in the Shia community to do that. He would even invite some of them when they would come and visit him, that I hear that you are a good poet and you do marthiyah of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, can you recite? And sometimes we see that the fellow would just recite in an informal way, and Imam will say, no, I would like to see that fervor, the spirit, as if you are doing it in the presence of the grave of Imam Hussain alayhi salam. And then, the sixth Imam would cry, and even the women on the other side of the curtain would be sitting there, listen to the marsiyah and crying. So this was not only a what we call sunnat qawli. This was not a statement of the ma'asum. This is also the action of the imam enforcing this issue of marsiyah and encouraging the poets. Then you look at the days of Imam Rida alayhi salam, going all the way to the early stage just before Ghaibat al-Sughra. The other way by which they emphasized this aza was by visitation to the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, the ziyarat. And even this issue of reciting the ziyarat from far, especially the ziyarat of Arba'in, which has become a sign of the Shias in the words of the 11th Imam. And so Azadari is not a cultural issue, it is a religious ritual for us, reinforced in our thought process, in our ideas and thoughts from the Imams of Ahlul Bayt themselves. Of course, as the Shia community started increasing in numbers and spreading across the geographical and cultural boundaries, all the way from the Mediterranean coast in the west to the Bay of Bengal in the east, and from Turkey in the north, and Azerbaijan all the way to North Africa in the south. And I'm talking about the early days they're here. That the ritual of Azadari continued and spread. However, it started evolving, influenced by the local cultures. And so, and as far as the principle is concerned, as long as the evolving rituals which were being gradually added to the original Azadari were within the Shari'i parameters, then there is no problem in doing that. And so you see, for example, nowadays, now that the Shias have even expanded, their presence all over the world, you will see Azadari in Europe, in East Africa, West Africa, South Africa, in Indonesia, in Thailand. You go to Europe, you go to North America, you go to South America, and as well as even Australia. So there is no more any continent in the world where Azaa of Imam Hussein is not done, and done in a very powerful manner. However, every community of the Shia world is doing it in their own language and according to their own cultural settings. And we don't have a problem in the diversity of the forms of Azadari, as long as they are within the Shari'i parameters given by our ulama. And it's because of this that on the other hand, you see that the enemies of the Shias targeted the Azadari as the first point of trying to decrease and curtail the influence of the spread of Shiaism. Sometimes even the governments got involved and they tried their ability to stop it. You had Mutawakkil during the Abbasid era, and you had Saddam during our own time. They tried their best to stop the process of Azadari of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, but they were not able to stop it. They suppressed it to some extent, but they were not able to suppress it totally. And whenever after suppressing it for some time, when the Azadari came back, when there was more freedom after that, it came back with a stronger vigor and force. Look at the Arba'in walk of our own time in the last 10 years. Saddam during his years tried. He didn't like this, the Mashi, the walk to Karbala done by the Iraqis from the past. He wanted to stop it, but he was not able to stop it, although he was able to dent the number of people who were coming and walking to Karbala for Arba'in. But after the downfall of Saddam, when that separation was gone, it actually came back with much more force than before, to the extent that the walk of Arba'in has now become probably the largest religious gathering in the world. And so, yes, the enemies have tried to, suppress it, but they have not been, successful in that way. And so now, talking about this evolution of the Azaa of Sayyid al-Shuhada, moving gradually from one area to another, from one century to another, let us now come to the present situation of COVID-19. Maulana Saghir Sahib very, beautifully explained in Urdu this issue, that this is one of those new occurring situation where we need the guidance of the Maraji. And it's a very good point. and I will leave that at that stage and talk about it slightly in a different way. The azaa of Imam Hussein alayhi salam will not stop, but it will manifest in different ways, even in this COVID-19 situation. Remember one thing, and I would like to really, I need your attention on this issue. Coronavirus is not a human being. And therefore, it doesn't have this bughz and hatred towards Ahlul Bayt or Imam Hussein or the Shias. It is a virus. On its own, it is fine. It's only when it comes into contact with any human being through the mouth or the nose or the eyes, then it can destroy that person's lungs and can even cause death of that person. Remember that the virus can affect any human being, whether that human being is a Muslim or a kafir, righteous or sinful, Shia or Sunni, Christian or Jew, Hindu or Buddhist or Sikh or atheist, doesn't matter. So when we talk about this phenomenon of coronavirus creating problems for us, let us always keep in mind we are not dealing with an anti-Shia person or a government like Mutawakkil or Saddam. We are dealing with a pandemic. We are dealing here with the issue of a virus which is creating problem all over the world. And so sometimes when I hear people saying that, this situation of ours now is very similar to what Saddam had done or Mutawakkil had done, they are, I would say, absolutely wrong. They are comparing oranges with apples. This is al-qiyas ma'al-fariq. And this is my belief, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the power of speech to the coronavirus, it will strongly protest against the accusation that it is against the azaa of Imam Hussein alayhi salam and it wants to stop the azaa. No, this is a virus dealing with human beings. And so this is where Islam will say, and Shia fiqh will say, and our Maraja have said very clearly, that do the azadari even in this COVID-19 situation, but with all the health and medical precautions, such as social distancing, wearing of masks, and other relevant procedures. Let me also make it very clear that the organizers of the community majalis in the Islamic centers and Imam Bargahs and Hussainiyas, and those who have private majalis at their homes, they must keep the risk of COVID-19 in their mind. It is their duty to evaluate their own given situation as far as the protocol of holding majalis is concerned, and then they will make the decision of holding it either online or within limited capacity with the medical precautions, or in one way or another, inside the building, outside the building. It is they who will make that decision, not anyone else. Azaa, remember, my brothers and sisters, azaa for us is an ibadat. It is an act of worship. It is a ritual, just like salat. And if you look at salat itself, and I'll use this example, there is a normal way of doing salat. When you are healthy in a normal situation, you do the salat according to the proper manner described for it. But when a person finds himself in a situation where he can't do the salat normally, what does the Sharia say? It doesn't say also now namaz, salat is suspended for you. No. That person will have to do the salat in other formats provided by the Sharia itself. If you are not feeling well and usage of water is harmful for you, do tayammum and then do the namaz. If you are not feeling well, you can't stand up, then sit down and do the namaz. If you cannot sit down, then lie down on the bed and do the namaz. And for ruku and sujood, just do ishara, by indication. Either by moving your neck for ruku a little bit, or a little bit more for sajda, or even with the eyelids. If you are in town, you will do your 4 rakat, salat normally. But if you are traveling, then you do it in a shorter form. The main point is that all these different ways of doing salat are equally valid, and there is a sawab in it, in their own appropriate situations. And similarly, now you look at the example of Azah of Sayyid al-Shuhada. If it is not possible to do the azadari normally, then do it the way it is possible and safe for yourself and for those who are around you. If you can't congregate in a center normally, then try to do it with social distancing and limited capacity allowed, by the medical officials in your own local city. If you can't even do that, then do your azah at home by listening to a majlis online. The main thing is that you must do the azah in whatever form it is possible and safe. An important point I might be repeating, but I would like to emphasize that the decision is of, every center, every family will evaluate their own situation and make the decision. The decision is their own, not of a sheikh or a sayyid or a politician or a marja. They will only give you the general guidelines. You will have to implement the guidelines in a given situation of your own center or your own home. And this is where you have to realize that once a center or an individual who is holding a majlis at home makes a decision of doing it one way or another, in one format or another, no one at all has a right to criticize that decision or put down their format of azah, and say that and judge them that they are lesser on the level of law of Ahlul Bayt and Imam Hussain alayhi salam. No. Remember, everyone is the azadar of Imam Hussain. Respect each one of them. Do not insult any one of them. The hadiths of the Imam are very clear. From the days of the sixth Imam onwards. If you look at the hadith which emphasizes the azah, you will see even there, this issue of, emphasizing the azah, you'll see the formats are there. For example, you are told, Man baka, aw abka, aw tabaka, ala al-Husayn wajabat lahu al-Jannah. The Jannat becomes a wajib on a person, number one, who cries on Hussein, or who makes somebody else cry on Hussein, or a person who just makes a sad face. And so in the hadith itself, you're getting this different, people react in different ways. They will do things in a different way. And this is where we have to realize, let us not be judgmental. And inshallah, everybody will be doing azadari in their own way. The main thing is do it with sincerity, so that Bibi Fatima Zahra will accept this act of condolence that we pay to her. And the Imam of the time will be pleased with what we are doing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will accept that azah and that ibadah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep all of you under his protection, and may he give us the ability to all the Shias around the world to do the azadari in the best possible manner, in the safe manner, so that we can fulfill our duty and also, gain the sawab from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Ahsantum Sayyidina. Tayyibullah anfas.
Ahsant, Maulana. Jazakallah. Thank you so much. Thank you all three alims for your words and for your short lectures on this topic today. So we've been getting questions throughout the program, and what I'll do is we have the questions coming in. What I'll do is I'll direct it to one of you, and if anyone else would like to chime in afterwards, feel free, and then we will move on to the next one, inshallah. So the goal is to, inshallah, go just until just before Maghrib. That is our kind of timeline. And for those of you who are still listening, feel free to continue submitting questions as we will be bringing them up as we can. So the first question that we have, and Maulana, you just kind of spoke to this a little bit, but I'll present this question to you. How do you respond to individuals who use emotional manipulation and say, "Don't you trust Imam Hussein will protect us from COVID," when asked to follow the health precautions, especially during Muharram?
I would actually answer that question as a question. When I have high fever, why don't I trust Allah and just do wuzu with cold water? Or I have high fever and I do ghusl. There's no, warm water available. What do? Trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and go to Him quickly? Come on. Just think about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala everywhere says He doesn't want to put you in a haraj. Imam Hussein alayhi salam doesn't, he wants Azadari to survive and the Azadar to survive.
Mm-hmm.
You see, again, I would emphasize the point that if there was a human entity only targeting Azadari and saying, "Oh, Azadari is forbidden. Churches can have their program, mandirs can have their programs, synagogues can have their gatherings, but the mosque also can have their Jummah, but they cannot have majlis," then it is an issue of anti-Shia, or this bughz and hatred towards Hussein. Then we have to go in force, full force to protest and do it. But this is not an issue of that nature. This is actually, a natural phenomenon where we have to take care of ourselves. And Quran says very clearly, do not put yourself in halaka. Halaka means do not put in a situation where you will perish. Your life is important.
Ahsant.
Okay.
Thank you, Maulana. Sheikh Jafar, Maulana Saghir, if you'd like to add on, or we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, sure, please, Sheikhana, if you have a comment, go ahead. Otherwise, I want to say something.
Can I ask everyone to speak a little louder? I cannot hear fully, including the moderator.
Okay, definitely. We'll speak louder.
Let me get closer. Yeah, with due respect, Maulana, what you said is exactly what should be the answer. But I will put it in the other way. So maybe some people, they connect in a certain way. Yeah, Ati'u Allah wa Ati'u Rasul wa ulil amri minkum has not to do with our emotions. We are the followers. Emotions go through what? Our own desires. Hawa nafs. Hawa nafs is very dangerous. How would I know this is what I'm wanting? Is it from shaitan or from who? But obeying Allah and His apostle is simply the code in our religion. So simple as that. Ati'u, simply follow, obey, emulate them, not create your own understanding and judgment. Because that is simply your hawa, your desire. Have you seen that person who has, named his own desire his Lord? So let's not follow ourselves. Let's follow Allah and His apostle. Thank you.
Sheikh Jafar, so I'll present the next question, which relates to this. It's a bit of a next step to it. So there are people who are saying that we must congregate in Muharram. Is there any deficiency in our commemoration of the tragedy of Karbala from our homes instead of doing it in our centers and our masajid?
Thank you for that question. I believe that Maulana answered that in his talk as well, in the sense that when we are told to commemorate, there is not a one cookie cutter expectation of that commemoration. Rather, we've seen this happen in previous times when for example, when we speak about when there was a zalim, for example, in Iraq. I remember some of my teachers were from Iraq, and they would say that they would not be able to do azadari externally at that time. And so they would have private majlises in their homes, and no one would ever say that that was a deficient form of azadari. And I feel that in this circumstance as well, right? Like, it's not that, as Sayyid mentioned, that it's done out of laziness, nor is it done because of any other reason, really. It's done because common sense tells us we have to act with the most precaution at this time. And if whether that precaution is in a gathering where all the necessary precautions have been met, or it's a precautionary act in our homes, that act would be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and there is absolutely no deficiency in that form of commemoration.
Sorry, I was muted there. I think you can all hear me now. So I'll move on to the next question, Ahsan Sheikh. I'll present this one to Maulana Saghir. This question, it builds on what we are speaking about, but what are some things that we can do at home to make it seem like Muharram? Aside from listening to the online majlis, what are some practical things that us families and at home we can do?
Ahsantum, thank you. Should I answer it in Urdu or English?
Whichever one. I'll leave it up to you, Sheikh.
I think do it in English. It's
English, because mostly, they speak English. Yeah, there are many things because, of course, you know what, as I said, Azadari is total package of our religion. And religion embraces Usul-Din and Furu-Din. But to be exact, let's say wear black dresses at home. Put some banners of the names of Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, let's say Banjatan Pak, Imam Hussain alayhi salam. Put on nohas throughout Muharram and Safar at your home. Play nohas, listen to them, because that brings spirituality, that helps us connect with Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam, especially the Shuhada Karbala alayhimus salam. Offer your salah awwal waqt. That is the best message. I could not illuminate there in my message that the Salatul Khawf of Imam Hussain alayhi salam taught us that even it's my Karbala, I'm about to die very soon, but he did not let his salah go. He could easily say, well, I'm going to be martyred in a few minutes. So what makes the difference? But no, the Ihya Amr, and as our respected Shaykhana Jaffar Hafidhahullah mentioned, إنما أريد الطلب إنما خرجت للطلب الإصلاح في أمة جدي. Imam wanted that reform, that islah. So we should do our islah. And that is a kind of relevant issue. Wherever we need, and I know everybody knows themselves, wherever you think the area is to work on, please start working on it. And as you can see, it's a very long answer, huge topic, but do as much as you can. Recite nohas, recite awwal waqt salah, tell your kids to recite nohas for you, share stories of Karbala, ask them questions, share the historical facts of the Karbala, share what happened, share what Imam Sajjad did, how Imam Sajjad alayhi salam propagated the Azadari, how Imam Sajjad will put a condition when somebody will say, Mawla, I want you to come to the, let's say, Shadi Khushali of my son. Imam will say, will you recite the Mazahib of my brother Ali Akbar there? Then I will come. So let's make Ashura practically known to everybody, but let's start with our family first, and so on, inshallah. I hope that should add some to the answer of the question.
Can I add in there one just?
Please go ahead.
The council of the Shia scholars had a discussion about this issue of different formats of holding the majalis in the coming Muharram, and talking about this. Having an online program at home. One practical example which came up and suggestion which we have included in that statement, which is on the website. Let me read this. This will just give an idea to some of the family members or individuals who want to do it at home. Those who are participating in online programs at home should dedicate a room or a space in the house for the 12 nights of Muharram, where all the family members can gather to listen to the online poetry and speech from their respective center, and thereafter participate in the matam or the latmiya after the speech and conclude with the ziyarat. Thus, each family will be able to create an atmosphere of azah and hold gatherings at their homes while simultaneously remaining connected to the community at large. And so, to have it, so it's not that, 6 people sitting in their own homes with their own laptop. Make it a point of everybody at a fixed time gathering in one room and having their own kind of a personal Imam Barga for these, for these days of Muharram, inshallah.
أحسنتم مولانا جزاكم الله خير.
If I could add something as well, I think especially with families with young children, we're in the summer months right now, and many of us have been cooped up at home the entire summer. And so now that there is slightly more freedom, everyone is out and going out. But I think we need to have a conversation within our house that, look, these 12 days of Azah are unique. And we can't consider, or we can't juggle or mix our summer vacation and outings and different trips that we take during the day, and then just spend an hour thinking that hour that we spend in commemoration is enough to justify. I think it's an entire acceptance that this is our lifestyle. This azadari, this azad, this commemoration is who we are. It's not a band-aid that we just stick on during an hour or hour and a half of the evening to say that we've done our due diligence or our duty to Abu Abdullah. And so that conversation needs to be happening now, that look, whatever we want to do, whatever outings we want to go to, whatever day trips we want to go to, we do it now. But when that moon of Muharram is sighted, for those next 12 days in particular, we change our lifestyle and commemorate with our whole beings and not just certain moments of those days.
Ahsan, thank you all for those answers. The next question, I'll present this to Maulana Rizvi. We have a question here about Zanjir. What are the origins? Can we say this is a haram practice? Individuals who choose to do it, should they be discouraged? And what about those who inflict this upon children?
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Remember, when it comes to the tatbir or zanjir, this has not been there all the time. This has evolved. And till about, recent past, there was no indication of any prohibition about it, other than the general guideline that do not do it to an extent that you will have a permanent damage to yourself. That was the cutoff line. However, at the present time, situations have changed. There was a time when you do something, let's say in Zanzibar, or in Lahore, or in Lucknow, or in Tehran, or in Karbala, it happens there. The whole world doesn't know about it. But with this issue of, media, something happens at the other corner of the world, and you come to know about it within a minute. And so on the one hand, the means of communication have become very fast. You can know what's going on. And so there's a beauty in it, and it's a good thing, but it also can be used in a wrong way by those who would like to tarnish our image. And so this is where, when this question is now put to the Maraji, either they will leave the responsibility on the individuals in the local area, and they will say that if it is going to tarnish the image of our madhhab and community in the eyes of the society there, and you will be, portrayed as a people of violence and things like that, then you shouldn't do it. But if there is no danger of that kind, then it's fine. Some have actually gone to the extent of saying that, no, we don't leave it on the individuals to make that decision. We know this is something which will have a negative impact, so they are saying no. And so the polarization in the community at the moment has reached to a point that there are extreme views on both sides. And people like Ayatollah Sistani now has reached to a point where when you ask him this question, he says, don't ask me, I don't have an opinion on this issue at all. And this is the way of him expressing his, utter frustration at the way people are, handling this issue, because he knows whether he says one thing or the other, it will be pulled to one extreme or the other extreme. And so what I will say, so this is the general, whether what are the views at the moment. And as I said, these views are now more current. Otherwise, in the past, it wasn't a problem. But finally, and essentially, keep in mind that doing zanjir zani, tatbir is an amal. And as an amal, as an act, you will have to refer to your marja. Go and ask what does he say, and act according to that opinion.
Ahsant, Maulana.
Santum.
With that, I'm going to go on to the next question we have here. This one I'll present to Sheikh Jaffar. It's based on what you had spoken about earlier. What more can we do to prepare for our 12th Imam that we can learn from the legacy of Karbala?
I'm sure. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I think there are many points, right, that we can branch off when we talk about or study Karbala. The first one, that we touched upon was that of reformation, right? That was the goal of Abu Abdullah alayhi salam, to seek the ummah to become better, right? Like, I mean, if you look at it, it was only 50 years after the wafat of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam that the ummah had shifted to such an extent where the third Imam had to sacrifice his life to bring about a reformation. Imagine where we are 1300 years later, right? And so there is a constant need for us to seek to become better. This betterment that the ummah needs to work towards is based on individuals, right? If the individuals within that ummah are not better, the ummah will not get better. And so what that tells us is that the primary responsibility of reformation is within each individual. Each individual daily needs to ask themselves that, am I getting better, right? And it's not that, like, we all seek reformation, right? So you look at people, for example, who want to become better physically, so they'll get a trainer or they'll go for a diet. Other people will want to become better when it comes to their workplace, so they may get professional training and may get a degree. But when it comes to spirituality, we have to make sure that we are getting the guidance from the right sources, and Karbala gives us that guidance, right? That when Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam was forced to give bay'ah in Medina, he replied very, very beautifully, right? He said that mithli la yubaya' mithlah, that someone like me does not give allegiance to someone like Yazid. And this phrase is so powerful, because he didn't say Hussein bin Ali la yubaya' Yazid bin Muawiyah, because that would have been a standstill event and said, okay, this was between Hussein and Yazid. But he says that someone like me, mithli, someone like me, does not give allegiance to someone like him. And so in the journey towards reformation, the lines have been already established, right? You are either like Hussein bin Ali alayhim as-salam, or you are like Yazid bin Muawiyah. There's no middle ground. There's really no middle ground. Each and every day, we have to ask ourselves that, are we people who are getting closer to being like Imam al-Hussein, or are we people going down the path of Yazid? And when we keep that in mind, I think it becomes very clear, not easy, because journey and reformation is not easy, but it becomes clear where I need to go to be the kind of companion that the 12th Imam would find useful, right? And inshallah, we can focus on that during these 12 nights or even for the rest of our lives, and it will help the cause of our Imam alayhi salam.
Ahsan, Sheikh. The next question we have here is, and I'll present this to Maulana Saghir Hussain. What should our objectives be from the commemorations of Muharram and Safar? How can I know that I have successfully completed the ibadat of Azadari?
It's Saghir Hussain, not Saghir Hussain.
Saghir Hussain, my apologies. Thank you,
No,
Maulana.
no
I didn't
worries.
say anything, but I wanted to correct
Thank
this.
Ahsant, Maulana. My apologies, Maulana Saghir
No,
Hussain.
no worries, no worries. It's Saghir, with the Kabir, opposite of Kabir. Saghir means little.
Maulana
We're all
is a
learning here,
defender.
alhamdulillah.
When something's going wrong, we rely on Maulana to defend us.
Ya Allah. Hafizakumullah, jazakumullah khair. Yeah, I apologize now. I almost forgot the question.
Okay, I'll repeat the question, inshallah. So the question is, what should our objectives be for the commemorations of Muharram and Safar? How can I know that I have successfully completed the ibadat of Azadari?
Yeah, ahsantum. See, there are two basic elements they are looking into. Number one, there should be a standard of knowing, am I tick yes or no, my Azadari? And then the gratification, itminan qalb, that how to know that have I fulfilled my, if I can just use the word ajr risalat, duty towards Imam Hussain alayhi salam or not. See, there are many signs. Look at the signs because it's relevant for us. It's we have to see some physical stuff, right? Some tangible stuff so I can know. So look at your heart by listening to, let's say, the Masaib, as Imam Sadiq alayhi salam mentions that, nafasul mahmum dhulmina ibadah, that if you even breathe a deeper breath in our, in grief of for our dhulm which has been done to us, that is a worship. Look at your heart by listening to, let's say, an awha, listening to a marfiya, listening to the majlis of an alim, a dhakir, whoever is reciting, mentioning the Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam. What is the state of your heart? How do you react to that majlis, to that nawha? If that produces love of Ahl Bayt alayhimus salam in you, if you feel, that I'm getting close to Allah, I'm having more sense of following the commands of Allah instead of following my own delusions, instead of following my own desires, my own judgment. Rather, you start thinking that how can I make Imam Zaman alayhi salam more happy with me? How can I make Bibi Fatima salamullahi alayha happy with me? What is the expectation of Imam Hussain from me today? Where do I stand from those set standards of Imam Hussain, which he mentions that أريد أن آمر بالمعروف وأنهى عن المنكر وأسير بسيرة جدي وأبي علي بن أبي طالب. How do I follow the seerah of Rasulullah? What Imam Hussein's criterion is that how can I tell myself, have I fulfilled? As the Ashab, they questioned Imam on the day of Ashura, when they were being sacrificed, being martyred. At the end, they will question, Imam will reach to them when they're about to die, and they will say, Yabna Rasulullah, are you happy with me now? See, this is our nature. We want to know, have I fulfilled my duty? This is natural. And this itself tells that you are already connected. You are on the right path. You are at the exact point where you are supposed to be. Many things can be mentioned, but as I said, the key is look into your heart. How is your feeling? How are you? Is this majlis, has it brought any positive change in you? Your attitude, any of the negative attributes you had in your nafs, has it shaken you up a bit, gave you a second thought that, hey, listen, what you are doing is wrong. What this person, what this Maulana, what this Zakir is mentioning is against what I do. It contradicts with what I normally practice. And this is, I trust, this is word of Hussein, this is word of Allah, this is word of whatever hadith or Quran. And I got to change. If you feel that change, you know what? You are in the camp of Karbala. And astaghfirullah, if you deny, your heart denies, it does not accept. Says, nah, and these are the words of these people. They just make these things up. This is just a fabrication. And if you deny the ayat of Allah, astaghfirullah, you should do istighfar. Then think and be known, you know what? You need to rethink about your faith. You got to rethink about your sense of azadari, and so on. And I hope this is the basic principle. And you can fill in the blanks with any other example. Look at your namaz. When I offer my salah, other days I was doing like, yeah, it's a farz, and alhamdulillah, with great ihtimam, and I was taking care of everything. But now I'm in pain. My Hussein was killed. And I want to offer best of my salah from now on. See, like battery dies on us. Karbala should be a charger of our salah, our saum, our sadiqul lisan, to be truthful, to be honest, our sincerity, our altruism, everything. We should be charging everything from Karbala, if you can make it brief. If you're getting the charge, be known you're well connected with the network of Walayat. And if astaghfirullah, you're connected, you're wired, but still you're not getting any charge, look for the problem somewhere. Thank you.
The next question we have here, I'll present this to Maulana Rizvi. Do we know if our 12th Imam was ever married and if he has any children?
No, there is no indication, because we have to realize that the phenomenon of ghaibat and long life in that way is a unusual and a miraculous, aspect of the 12th Imam's life. And so there are no indications as such that he married or he had, children, because then the question is that where his wives also had just a normal lifespan, or they also had, hundreds of years with them, or did one of them die in the normal lifespan and then he married again? What will be the process? Maybe he has children from the first one who were born 1,000 years, and others maybe just born recently. So these are all the issues that there is no answers to that, and there is no indication in confirmed hadith that we have about the life of the Imam. So there is no need to really get into it in that way.
Ahsant, Maulana. So we have another question here, which I think I'll actually present this to everybody, and we can start off with Sheikh Jaffar and we'll go around. But there's a question here: which Islamic book should we read in Muharram, and which Islamic websites can we use to view those books? So I assume this is in relation to the tragedy of Muharram. So we'll start with Sheikh Jaffar and we can make the rounds so anyone can recommend any books or website that may be useful.
Yeah, thank you. And excuse me, Maulana, for going in front of you. I think that this is a good opportunity for us to read some maqatil, right? Some narrations about the actual events that transpired in Karbala. And there are, like Nafas al-Mahmum is translated into English. There is another one called Imam Hussein and the Tragic Saga of Karbala. And in this you get Maqtal al-Mukarram is translated, for example. You get these accounts of what happened in Karbala, because when we listen to majalis, it is a summary of what really happened, right? But when you read these maqtals, you get the sermons that Imam al-Hussein delivered on the day of Ashura and how he spoke to the people. And you see that even as death was happening and his loved ones were being killed, he didn't want to be the cause of the other people going to Jahannam. And so he kept giving them chance and chance and chance. And it's beautiful. And sometimes it can't be, it's not delivered in the majlises for obvious reasons. But I think those are some of the books that I think we should be reading during these Azah days. As far as a website, al-islam.org is some places where you would just type in Imam Hussein and try to get as much literature. There's another website called islamiclib.wordpress.com. And that has a ton of resources that are in English that one can read. So that's what I would suggest.
Ahsan, Sheikh. Maulana Rizvi, Maulana Saghir Hussain, any comments?
I'll let Maulana Saghir go first.
Ahsan,
Whatever is left, I'll take care of it.
Yeah, I think Shaykhana Jaffar Hafidhahullah, he answered the question completely. Those two websites he mentioned, they are quite extensive, and many English translated books are there. The only thing is that for the Maqtal, I would add Luhuf of Sayyid ibn Taus, simply being a very comprehensive and the most authentic. Ulama, they really trust this Maqtal, so I would add on to that. And then I would say that any Sirah book of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, any collection of the sermons of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, to mention like Sheikh Jafar Subhani Hafidhahullah, or I mean, Dawri bit Ustad Jawadi Amuli Hafidhahullah has one, or Sheikh Mohsen Karati Hafidhahullah. I have to check, but I mean something about them. So then we can get inspiration and try to follow the path of theirs. So I would say that inshallah, read anything to relate us to the Sirah of Karbalais, inshallah. Thank you. Yes, Maulana, please go ahead, add on to our knowledge.
I will just suggest that, besides the books mentioned, there are, alhamdulillah, now quite a few English titles on this issue. One is the Martyr for Mankind by Allama Marhum Sayyid Ali Naqan Sahib, which is a very good historical and as well as analytical way of looking at Karbala. And also there is the book, I'm forgetting the name, The Story of Karbala, which has step by step, the sermons and the sayings of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, all the way from Medina till Ashura. So that's also something worthwhile looking at it. And Nafas al-Mahmum has already been mentioned, yes. There is also one book by my late father known as Understanding Karbala, which is a compilation of various articles on different issues. And so, yes, I think that should be a good reading.
As for a book, I'm not sure. Thank you so much, Maulana Saab. Jazakumullah khair. I'm not sure if Muthirul Ahzan has been translated into English or not, but that is also a very good collection of Masail. And the word of
I don't know about that. No.
Muthirul Ahzan.
Hussein texted me right now that he said that Ahlul Bayt TV has a lot of information and a lot of documentaries as well on
Yeah. Also, one more title I can mention here is the Rising of Al Hussein. This was by I think from Sheikh Mehdi Shamsuddin of Lebanon. That's also a good book.
Ahsan. Thank you. That definitely creates a good reading list and a good website list for everybody.
Yes.
To end off, there's one last question here before I have an announcement before we end off the program today. I'll present this question to Maulana Rizvi. There are so many programs going on throughout the day, but it's impossible to listen to all the programs. One feels guilty as well to only hear, one or two majalises per day. What would you advise?
Well, just as you might have many books out there, but you don't read all of them. You only read which feels more appealing to you. So yes, now, YouTube has everything in it there. And you can't really digest everything there. And sometimes you might even get into contradictions if you want to listen to everyone. You need to find out the background of the speaker and then, decide accordingly whether you want to listen to, one or two. I think, doing 2 majlis in a day, at least for the normal days, would be sufficient. Or even 1 majlis with concentration. Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Alhamdulillah, Santa, everybody for participating and enlightening all of us. Inshallah, we're able to take advantage of this holy month of Muharram, despite the situation we're in. And inshallah, may everybody be able to commemorate Muharram in the best of health, inshallah. With that, we have one announcement from ISIJ of Toronto that our Mukhi Akil Kareem has asked me to announce today. After a positive experience with reopening up JCC for Fajr Salat, the ISIJ of Toronto has decided to open the Jaffari Community Center for Zohar Salat, starting Tuesday, August 18th, 2020 at 1:30 p.m. This will give us an opportunity to continue to expand the testing of the robustness of our processes and our protocols. In order to adhere to physical distancing guidelines, prayers will continue to be at 2 meters apart, with each individual reciting with the niyat of furada. Those wishing to attend the center for Dhuhr prayers must complete an online registration form. The form must be completed for each date that you wish to pray at the center. The link for the online registration and further details will be sent out through a secretariat announcement tomorrow, inshallah. So with that, I will conclude today's program. Again, thank you, Maulana Rizvi, Maulana Saghir Hussain, and Sheikh Jaffar for enlightening us with this seminar. And thank you, everybody, for attending and participating in the program. With that, I will end off the program. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. Thank you.